Tonight, we're witnessing what might be the most brazen attempt to obstruct justice in American history. The Biden White House is actively discussing preemptive pardons for key deep state operatives Fauci, Schiff, and Cheney, a desperate move to shield them from future prosecution in a Trump administration. But here's what's really stunning. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. Politico reports that top Biden aides are in vigorous internal debate about this unprecedented legal maneuver. And why now? Well, it's simple. In exactly 47 days, Donald Trump returns to the White House, and these people are terrified of what he might uncover. And you know what keeps corrupt politicians up at night? The truth. And just like Chuck Norris keeps proving that there is a secret to maintaining strength as you age, there's also a secret to seeing through the deep state's smokescreens. Chuck's groundbreaking video will show you exactly how he maintains his incredible fitness well into his 80s, the same kind of resilience we need to fight back against corruption. Watch his eye-opening revelation at chuckdefense.com/next. Don't let their lies diminish your strength. Join Chuck and discover the truth they don't want you to know. We thank Chuck Norris for sponsoring this program. Okay, so, whoa, what is going on in the Biden White House? MSNBC is now calling for Joe Biden. This was 2 days ago now. This was 2 days ago that this came out. But now Politico is talking about actual internal discussions. So we're going to take you back a couple days, 48 hours, before the news broke of what is actually taking place in the White House. MSNBC now calling for Joe Biden to issue preemptive pardons for himself, saying he will need a pardon. MSNBC also said Biden should pardon Jack Smith and his associates because they know they're in some deep crap. This is what panic looks like. This is 48 hours before the news dropped today.
Of those people grant of clemency, I hope that President Biden will also issue preemptive pardons to all of those people threatened by the injustice of what will become the Department of Justice in the Trump administration. That, of course, includes Jack Smith and all of his staff, many Department of Justice lawyers. It includes President Biden himself, although we don't know that anyone can legally pardon themselves. He will need a pardon because he is going to be harassed and charged for no crimes whatsoever. Donald Trump has promised that.
Anthony, to pick up on that, do you think that what played into the president's decision here is...
Now, of course, they're talking about Hunter Biden. They're talking about Hunter Biden right now. But why would they need pardons? I mean, if Jack Smith was acting, above board, why would they need a pardon? Is it because Kash Patel is going to hit the FBI and we got Pam Bondi going into DOJ and they're going to peel back the curtain and find all the real corruption? And find the real illegal activity, the lawfare that they executed against Donald Trump for how long do we have to deal with that and his family? Oh yes, a pardon spree is underway. It's called a preemptive pardon. Now, a presidential pardon can be granted for crimes that have not yet been charged. This is referred to as a preemptive or anticipatory pardon. Here are the key points based on legal precedents and historical examples. U.S. Supreme Court in Ex parte Garland, 1866, established the presidential pardon power extends to every offense known to the law and may be exercised at any time after its commission, either before legal proceedings are taken or during their pendency, or after conviction and judgment. This indicates a pardon can be issued before an individual is charged with a crime. Wow. Historical examples is one of the most notable is President Gerald Ford's pardon of Richard Nixon in 1974, which was granted before any formal charges were brought against Nixon concerning the Watergate scandal. Ford's pardon was for all offenses against the United States which he, Richard Nixon, has committed or may have committed during his presidency. Okay, so there is precedent for this. And right now, Mario Nafal 3 hours ago posted, "Merry Christmas, Fauci. Your odds to get pardoned just went up." After Hunter, it appears that Biden may be handing out pardons like stocking stuffers. Polymarket now giving Fauci a 37% chance of scoring a Biden pardon after leaks revealed the White House is eyeing preemptive pardons. We're going to get into some of the backstory, some of the hypocrisy in a moment here. Colin Rugg reports the Biden White House is considering pardoning Dr. Anthony Fauci. According to Politico, Biden's team is discussing preemptive pardons to protect certain people from being targeted by President-elect Donald Trump. Names on the list may include Dr. Fauci, Adam Schiff, and Liz Cheney. That's according to the outlet. Politico reports the West Wing deliberations have been organized by White House counsel Ed Siskel, but include a range of other aides, including Chief of Staff Jeff Zients. Senator Rand Paul previously filed a criminal referral over Fauci's contradictory claims about the origins of COVID. Now, if there's anybody that needs to be criminally prosecuted, it is Dr. Anthony Fauci. Paul said during his radio interview, for his dishonesty, frankly, he should go to prison. If you lie to Congress and you're dishonest and you won't accept responsibility for his mistaken judgment, he should just be pilloried. He should never be accepted. That was during a radio interview. Now we've got more details to continue. Now, of course, the coronavirus pandemic report did come out just 2 days ago. Isn't that convenient? The coronavirus report comes out 2 days ago. And in the findings, they state COVID likely originated from a lab-related incident in Wuhan linked to gain-of-function research funded with U.S. taxpayer dollars. And now Fauci is suddenly on the list to get a pardon? Over $200 billion in relief funds lost to fraud, with criminals exploiting weak oversight. Prolonged lockdowns and arbitrary mandates cause severe harm, economic devastation, mental health crises, and historic learning loss while lacking robust scientific support. Policies ignored natural immunity, pushing mandates that eroded trust and harmed public perception of science. World Health Organization and CDC compromised by political interference, offering inconsistent, unscientific guidance that fueled public distrust. Key players, including federal agencies and Cuomo's administration, actively obstructed oversight efforts and critical evidence. So, I mean, it's clear. I'm sure there's a number of crimes in this report that can be thrown at Dr. Anthony Fauci and all the people who push those lockdowns and everything they did to us during that pandemic. So they're getting ready. Remember, we talked about this the other day. Watch all the other pardons that are going to come out after Hunter. We'll see Joe Biden's brother. We'll see members of Joe Biden's family, people in his orbit, and now Adam Schiff. He's on the list. I mean, that guy was pushing lie after lie after lie. He was censured by Congress. Oh, we're going to get to some of the historical background in a moment here. Yeah, here's Hunter Biden after he got his pardon. That's the meme going around. Julie Kelly, day one recommendations for Kash Patel at the FBI. Fire everyone at the Washington FBI field office. Open up a separate investigation into the armed raid of Mar-a-Lago and holding FBI agents accountable. See, there are so many crimes that were committed during the Biden administration that's why they are looking at blanket immunity and pardons for all the criminal actors. I mean, can you imagine if they actually go and do this? These are the discussions that are being had. What happens next? You don't pardon someone who's innocent, but they are terrified of Donald Trump stepping foot into that Oval Office on January 20th. They know that his DOJ and his FBI are going to have teeth, and they are coming. They are going to raise hell, and they are going to hold people accountable. And that's what needs to happen. We, the people, are the ones that grant those people authority to write the laws. We put trust in them. But they have clearly abused that trust and the mandate from the people, and it's all about to change. Steve Gruber. The Biden administration is pursuing preemptive pardons for those targeted by Donald Trump. Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, and Anthony Fauci. The 11-year breadth of Biden's pardon of his son, Hunter, illustrated how worried the White House is about Trump officials seizing any potential openings for prosecution. And that's what these investigations, see, they're trying to head off any investigations. If they can give a blanket pardon to these folks, and I said this the other night, that they are going to neuter Kash Patel, they are going to neuter Pam Bondi. Is that what you call it for a female? Is it spaying? You know what I'm saying, right? They are going to kneecap these individuals so that they don't have the ability to do any investigations because they're going to have blanket pardons. Back in 2020, Democrats were claiming that preemptive pardons for the president's children could be illegal and unconstitutional. 2020. The issue of pardons, Trump and his 3 eldest children have never been found publicly guilty of a crime. This is from Bloomberg Quick Takes. This has resurfaced. Let's take a look.
Preemptive pardon. And what's interesting to me about this issue of pardons is Trump and his 3 eldest children and Jared Kushner have never publicly stated or been found publicly guilty of a crime. And what is the president worried about that the public doesn't know that's causing him to consider preemptive pardon? Secondly, it's very dubious as to whether or not it's even constitutional or legal for him to do either of those.
Okay, remember, Donald Trump didn't do any of those things. He didn't do any preemptive pardons for any members of his family. But after what we just saw with the Hunter Biden pardon and the fact that we were lied to for years, I'm not going to pardon my son. I'm not going to pardon my son. KJP going to the microphone in the White House press briefing room time after time. He's not going to pardon. He's not going to pardon. He's not going to pardon. And then, of course, they pardoned. We knew he was going to do it. They lied to us. So I wouldn't put anything past this administration, given the rampant lawfare that they have employed on Donald J. Trump and his family. They don't care. They're literally going to light a match and throw it over their shoulder and watch it all burn behind them. They don't care. They're going to give themselves pardons and they're just going to walk away. They're never going to look back. And they're going to laugh in everyone's face. Let's continue. Here's more. Scott Jennings, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, Speaker Johnson, and this was 9 hours ago, discussing the Hunter Biden pardon
that he committed. Let me say a word about Hunter Biden. A lot has been said and written about the pardon. President Biden is letting his son off the hook for the federal crimes that he committed. This weekend, of course, he pardoned Hunter. And it's important to point out, and everyone has, and even many Democrats are now expressing their great disappointment and their dismay, because the president promised us over and over and over, repeatedly, unequivocally. He told the American people that he would not issue a pardon for his son, and then he did it. It was more than 10 occasions. We have the receipts. It's all on video. They made formal official declarations to that point. The White House said he wouldn't do it, but he did. So they misled the American people. And a lot has been recounted over the last couple of days since that happened, that it's just like when he said the border was secure. It's just like when he said that Bidenomics was working great for the American people. It's just like when he denied or tried to cover up his obvious mental acuity and decline. And it's just like when he insisted that the catastrophic Afghanistan withdrawal was somehow a success. This pardon is a perversion of justice, and it is an utter disregard for the rule of law. And it further undermines the people's faith in our system of justice. So we have reform on the way, and it cannot happen soon enough. And you've heard us say many times, you've heard me say many times as a former constitutional law attorney litigator, that this is one of the greatest concerns I have, when the people believe that there are 2 tiers of justice. And the current occupant of the White House emphasizes that point. It makes it very difficult. They have done, in my view, the Biden family, almost irreparable damage to our system of justice. So we have a lot to repair.
We have a lot to repair. Hang on that word. We have a lot to repair. But if Biden goes and pardons all these people, you can't repair it. There will be no justice. These people will walk away smiling. Let's continue. We got some more to get to. Okay. So Biden White House, Eric Darty, 6 hours ago, considers preemptive pardons, according to Politico. Cheney, Schiff, Fauci, Biden aides deeply concerned about current and former officials who may face investigations and indictments from Trump's DOJ, especially after Kash Patel was selected for FBI director. Kash Patel has said he is going to have no mercy. Shem Horn. If Joe Biden pardons all the criminals in the government and Congress doesn't impeach him, then day one, President Trump should open an investigation into Congress for corruption. There's no other explanation. Our government is non-functional. We are so lucky that Trump won. Jonathan Martin, 6 hours ago. Top Biden aides are conducting vigorous internal debate over whether to issue preemptive pardons, an extraordinary step to inoculate potential Trump targets from prosecution. At issue whether to err on the side of protecting figures like Fauci, Schiff, and Cheney in case Trump pursues them, as Biden did with his son, or avoid any suggestion of impropriety by handing out pardons such individuals are not seeking. So that was from Politico. Daily Mail published this as well. Pardoning Dr. Simon Godek. Pardoning Fauci would be like pardoning Hitler. Do you agree? Daily Mail headline, Biden aides mulling preemptive pardons. Fauci, Cheney, and host of Trump critics in the line of fire. Young Americans for Liberty, posting this 5 hours ago. We all know the only people who need pardons are the people who did nothing wrong, right? Dr. Fauci should be prosecuted, and Dr. Fauci, he's on the list. Nick Sortor, the Biden regime is considering preemptive pardons. Why, you ask? Because Biden knows these three are guilty as sin. Biden is doing nothing short of abusing his power to save his political allies from being properly investigated and prosecuted. Young Americans for Liberty posting this as well. This is from I believe this is Politico. President Joe Biden and senior aides are conducting a vigorous internal debate. They're deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries, indictments, a sense of alarm, which has only accelerated since Trump's last weekend announcement appointment of Kash Patel to lead FBI. They are terrified of what is about to happen. Clay Travis, Joe Biden is a complete and total liar on pardoning Hunter. They discuss this with Harris Faulkner. Let's listen in for a moment.
Op-ed argues Biden said that the Russian disinformation was real, the laptop, all of it. All of it was lies. How could you not know he'd get to this point? A new op-ed argues the legacy media enabled Biden's Hunter pardon, quote, their job is to lie for the Biden administration and to stay silent when Joe Biden publicly humiliates them afterward. Flanked by a dedicated gaggle of shameless media propagandists, Joe Biden is free as Hunter to deliver his final insult to the American people, end of quote. Clay Travis.
Oh, no, the final insult is going to be when he pardons Fauci and Schiff and Cheney.
Kick founder. Clay, your top line thoughts.
Joe Biden's a complete and total liar, and everybody who has a functional brain knew he was lying, Harris, when he said that he wasn't going to pardon Hunter. And we know that they were having conversations in June when this conviction happened, and they knew that it would look bad because Joe Biden at that time was still in the office, and he thought there were two ways he was going to beat Trump. One was with abortion, and we know Kamala Harris spent $1 billion on abortion ads, and it didn't work, but that was one idea. The other was by arguing that Trump was a direct assault on democracy and that he was a felon president. And so if he had pardoned his son, you're taking one of the two arguments that he thought was the most coherent and concise for his campaign off the table. So they made a calculated decision to lie to the American public because it benefited them politically based on the lies that they were spreading about Donald Trump. And Harris, my takeaway as Trump is going to take office here in a little bit less than, 7 weeks, is I want him to pardon immediately on day one. I can't get here fast enough, Harris. I want him to immediately pardon on day one every single January 6th political prisoner, even those that engaged in acts of violence. People say, what are you talking about there? You can look at the way that they were treated. If you commit a violent crime in D.C., you hardly get prosecuted at all right now. Even the people that engaged in violence have been prosecuted more than the average person would be in our nation's capital. I want a blanket and complete pardon for all of those people, Clay, because Joe...
I can certainly agree with that. Now, we've got some more. Let's get to this point here. This was published by Alex Jones. Let's see what Alex had to say.
Breaking. All right, Alex Jones here with a massive news story breaking right now. Of course, it's come out, and Trump's announced, and so has Tom Homan and others, the new orders are, that they are going to criminally go after the human traffickers and smugglers, including the NGOs, the UN, the government officials like Mayorkas and others. And I've been expecting Biden to try to give them pardons, and my sources have told me exclusively that they are looking for pardons. Well, now Politico is reporting that Biden is looking at a whole range of pardons for people across federal agencies, but namely Fauci and others. And I'll put the names in the list here on this post, but that just shows you how real Trump is, because behind the scenes, he's got the task force geared up. Publicly, they've been saying they're going to go after folks. And that's a declaration of war by Trump against these people, because he knows they're going to come back at him. But Trump also understands that it's the right thing to do. It's justice, and they're never going to stop if they're not prosecuted trying to sabotage this country. So this is just massive. Trump must go on total offense to get these people off balance, or they will just continue to sabotage the country. They're also publicly announcing, the Democrats, that Trump's going to use the military against people and martial law and all this crap for the constitutional duty and right of the federal government to round up illegals. The Democrats are pledging to resist it in armed resistance. I saw CNN today saying that, echoing what Carville said a month ago. So that's their whole plan, is civil war and stuff. They are desperate. They are crazy. They are dangerous. And now they're moving. Politico's like the mouth of the globalists. You trust it's true that Biden's about to start all these blanket pardons for their criminal operations. This is just incredible. Yeah. But the states can still come after him. We'll learn something from their little playbook. But unlike with Trump, now the Republicans targeted by tyrants who didn't do anything, the Democrats have all committed such massive crimes, it's open and shut. So there's more than one way to skin a cat or a tyrant. All right. More
tar and feather them. Okay, let's take a look back here. Okay. Eric Abente, Biden administration seeking preemptive pardons. CNN mocked Matt Gaetz for seeking a blanket preemptive pardon due to a fear of retribution from Democrats. The Trump administration denied the request due to fear of setting a bad precedent. Let's go back in time, shall we, and see how CNN covered these topics.
Thought it was Gaetz did two things. Publicly on Fox News, and I think he tweeted it, he said that the former president should pardon literally everybody. I think he mentioned the Thanksgiving turkey. He talked about Joe Exotic, because in his words, the quote-unquote liberal crowd was going to come after allies of the president. There was also a private conversation that he had with White House officials about a blanket pardon. He wanted one for himself. He was suggesting one for allies of his in Congress. We're not sure specifically who. White House officials thought it was bizarre and knocked it down pretty quickly. It paints this picture of somebody who sought a blanket pardon ostensibly because he thought he'd be targeted because of the former president. But now allies of the former president are looking back on it and questioning whether this was an effort to protect himself because he knew what was going on.
So preemptive pardons have been floated in the past, but never used in such a manner by Donald Trump. But now it's actually being floated. The talk of these preemptive pardons is highly disturbing. Nan Lee, Mary Charismi. Listen to Mike Davis now. This is on Real America's Voice.
Tony Fauci.
I also couldn't think of a more perfect guest to have on with this Politico story breaking. I'll read the headline again. Biden White House is discussing preemptive pardons for those in Trump's crosshairs. Again, I told Jonathan Martin, I do not like the framing of that article. Mike Davis, some of the names they tossed around, Anthony Fauci, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff. I think that's quite incomplete. I know we aren't allowed to use the word enemy or enemies list, let alone together. But your thoughts on the article, and more importantly, who's missing?
Yeah. Well, I would say this. If they've done nothing wrong, if they haven't violated any federal criminal statutes, why are they worried about issuing pardons? The fact that they're talking about preemptive pardons for these bad actors maybe means that they've committed federal crimes. I can think of, for example, Tony Fauci. He funded COVID in the Wuhan lab illegally. Then he lied about it, including lying about it before Congress. He conspired with others to obstruct justice and cover this up. It caused, trillions of dollars in damage around the world. It killed millions of people. It destroyed our lives for how many years? Maybe Tony Fauci does need a pardon. Liz Cheney. She obstructed justice and tampered with witnesses and got them to change their stories to make up her January 6th narrative to try to take out her political opponents. Yeah, it sounds like Liz Cheney does need a pardon. I think there are a lot of people who may need pardons from Biden. I think, Biden pardoned Hunter Biden, who was the leader of the Biden crime family, the bagman at least. And so maybe Joe Biden should also pardon himself and the rest of the Biden family members who took $23 million and counting that House Oversight Chairman James Comer has been able to identify through bank records that went into what seems like every Biden's bank account from these shady foreign actors. What were they buying from the Bidens? And so it would be nice if they got pardons too. I would also pardon Jack Smith and Jay Bratz and, Alvin Bragg and Matthew Colangelo and Fannie Willis and Nathan Wade and Tish James and Arthur Engeron and Juan Merchan and so many of these other Democrat operatives who ran this illegal criminal conspiracy against rights against President Trump, his top aides, Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th, who were politically persecuted, persecuted under the Supreme Court's Fisher ruling, parents targeted by the FBI for expressing their outrage at gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in bathrooms, Christians, including a 75-year-old Christian, going to prison for praying at an abortion clinic while the other side gets amnesty. I'd say Matthew Graves in D.C., the January 6th prosecutors and units could probably use pardons. There's a lot of people who could use these Biden pardons because they clearly violated federal criminal statutes when they politicized and weaponized the Biden Justice Department to go after their political enemies. Oh, we forgot about Andrew Weissman, Norm Eisen. There are so many people. I always talk about having my 6 lists as President Trump's acting attorney general. Then I became the viceroy when that triggered people too much. But they could just use my prosecution lists for their pardon lists.
Holy cow. Wow. He ran down an entire list. Now, let's take a look back at this moment. This is pure gold. Joy Reid and Schiff in December of 2020 talking about Trump's family pardons. The hypocrisy is thicker than swamp mud.
Honorable man, Barack Obama never had to think about whether he needed to pardon Sasha and Valia, and yet Donald Trump is reportedly discussing pardons for his kids. The presidential pardon was originally meant to grant the president the power to temper justice with mercy. It was not enshrined in our Constitution so that a dishonorable man could reward his criminal allies, friends, and family for their corrupt practices. Trump is considering preemptive pardons for his adult children. Late last night, we learned that Trump has discussed preemptive pardons for his 3 eldest progeny. The news was first reported by the New York Times. And joining me now is Congressman Adam Schiff of California, chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Have you...
Okay, before we get to Adam Schiff here in this throwback moment, he's on the list. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
Ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family. And so there is a self-interest at play as well. It's been essentially a den of thieves environment. And so I think the president used this as his way of trying to protect those that have protected him.
And Adam Schiff, he is on the list for a preemptive pardon. You can't make this stuff up. Back in, this is Rand Paul talking about Fauci. Of course, Fauci's on the list. Adam Schiff The West Wing deliberations have been organized by White House counsel Ed Siskel, include a range of other aides, including Chief of Staff Jeff Zients, according to Politico. Senator Paul previously filed criminal referral over Fauci's contradictory claims. Let's listen.
In humans, Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Wuhan virology paper entitled Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses. Please deliver a copy of the journal article to Dr. Fauci. In this paper, Dr. Shi credits the NIH and lists the actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper, she took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combine genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals but not humans to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress.
Microphone.
Your microphone.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
Ha ha! There you have it. There you have it. I mean, he should have just pled the fifth.
This paper that you were referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function.
So
let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
If it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
Boom! And that is why he is on the list for a pardon. That moment right there. And then you have this pandemic report coming out 2 days ago. All the timelines are lining up. You have blatant hypocrisy from the left talking about Donald Trump pardoning, but he never did. And you've got, the Hunter Biden situation showing a precedent for the absolute disregard and the blanket pardon. It's all lining up, friends. Politico, Biden White House is discussing preemptive pardons for current and former officials in Trump's crosshairs. Let's listen to Donald Trump. This was published a day ago by Juanita Broderick. This might be an older clip, but let's hear what Donald Trump had to say.
We have is now 100% proven that the Biden crime family received more than $20 million from foreign countries while Crooked Joe was vice president, and probably a lot more than that. That's just the money they found. Not one of Joe Biden's defenders has even attempted to explain what Joe and his family did, including his children and his grandchildren. What were they doing getting all of this money? I believe we have a compromised president. He was bribed, and now he's being blackmailed. He's a Manchurian candidate. That's why Crooked Joe is letting other countries walk all over the United States. He's afraid to bring it up. He doesn't want to talk about it. He's petrified of China because they know exactly how much money has been given to him, and they know exactly where it is. China has paid him a fortune. Just think of what China has gotten for all that money. Biden shut down my administration's initiative targeting Chinese spies in the United States. He shut it down cold. He let China off the hook for COVID. He shut down the investigation into the origins of the China virus. He did nothing as China began setting up bases in Cuba, taking over South America, and threatening Taiwan. They even took over the Panama Canal. We spent a fortune building it. Jimmy Carter's administration sold it for $1. We lost 36,000 people building the Panama Canal. The mosquitoes got them, malaria. The mosquitoes got them. And now China controls it. Russia and China are even doing military exercises near the Aleutian Islands, right off the coast of Alaska. And Biden sits back on his hands. He does nothing. This never would have happened if I was president. If they even thought about it, I would have shut it down instantly. There's no way they would have done any of this kind of thing, including Russia invading Ukraine would have never happened. And China wouldn't even be thinking about Taiwan right now. Crooked Joe's corruption is a glaring threat to national security. Between the millions and millions of dollars he's gotten from China and the millions of dollars from Ukraine, Joe Biden's greed and criminality is going to get us into World War III. We're going to be in World War III with this guy. Grossly incompetent man. Now the corrupt Biden DOJ is continuing the cover-up with the appointment of a special counsel to block further investigation. It's the very same U.S. attorney who cut Hunter Biden the scandalous plea deal that was such a scam it didn't survive the barest scrutiny in court. It was done under what's called blue slip. It wasn't picked in that position by President Trump. It was picked by the Democrat senators in the state. It's called a blue slip. You'll check it out. But they.
So, obviously, Donald Trump, he's done his homework. He knows why Joe Biden and all of his family members need to have pardons too. So we're going to continue to track this. Let's hear, Julie Kelly talking about day one recommendations for Kash Patel.
What do you want to see Kash do on his first day at FBI? Go.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's see. Fire everyone in the Washington FBI field office and open an investigation into what happened there. Open up a separate investigation into the armed raid of Mar-a-Lago and all the agents and officials, including top DOJ, who were involved in that. And of course, a separate inquiry and holding accountable these FBI agents who have been treating American citizens like terrorists over the past 4 years. So that would be, I guess, my short list. But Benny, before.
But if these people all get blatant pardons, they got nothing.
We wrap up here. I do not consent to not making fun of Trey Gowdy. I'm sorry. That is the bridge too far. I am not going to stop making fun of him. I understand the motive. I understand you're being gracious. That's not going to happen here. Sorry.
Okay. So this is all big breaking news tonight. And then we have this. Catherine Herridge reveals that a live interview with Elon Musk about the Twitter files was quashed by CBS News because they didn't know what he was going to say. Because the media is complicit. The Twitter files, again, the reason this is important is because the FBI and the Biden White House were colluding to take your rights away, to violate your constitutional rights of free speech. And Catherine Herridge was going to do an interview about the Twitter files, but they stopped her.
That included doing. Yeah, so just to set the stage, it was the fall of 2023. I had tried to enterprise a story that would bring the Twitter files to CBS News. It didn't get as far as I had hoped, but an interview opportunity developed with Elon Musk, and the offer was to do a live interview with him on X. So I took that opportunity to the CBS News executives, and they said, we just can't do it live. And I was like, what do you mean we can't do it live? And they said, well, we don't know what he's going to say. And I was like, wait a second. Isn't that what journalism is all about? The short story is that a number of conditions were set on this possible opportunity with Elon Musk that included doing something taped, editing it, only having it on the CBS News platform. And frankly, I felt so ashamed that a news organization would place so many restrictions on an interview. And Dan, typically it's the interview subject that's placing the restrictions on an interview, not the network. I never went back to Elon Musk and said, I'm sorry, I know you're all about free speech, but they want to put these conditions on it. I just couldn't go back to him with that.
Wow. I wonder how many members of the media would be on the pardon list as well. So we're going to continue to track this. Here's Scott Jennings dismantling an entire CNN panel.
Well, wait, this kind of thing, I don't want to be bringing back waterboarding. I don't want to be a country that tortures people, especially if we're the kind of country that's going to be using the military against our own citizens.
Well, wait,
this kind of thing concerns me.
What do you mean use against our own citizens?
I'm talking about
you
sending...
said blue states behave. What do you mean? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about sending the military into blue states to make them behave. Getting Gavin Newsom under control, getting J.P. Pritzker under control.
What are you...
That's what Alex was referring to earlier.
Sure.
What do you mean? Like sitting into the state capitol to commandeer the state government?
I mean, I hope not, but he's definitely talked about that. I don't know why you're acting like you've never heard
the military to suppress in the Black Lives Matter era those protests in the street. He was there himself.
I just make sure I understand your position that you believe Donald Trump is going to use the military to set up effectively like coups in state capitals of states that he didn't win?
I think you're taking it a step or two.
No, she said make blue states behave, and she also said round up immigrants. That's not true. Well, it's deport illegal immigrants.
Scott, I think you're just being a little I don't know why you're acting. No.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I mean, look. I think you're right. Let's be precise. Trump has wanted to use the military to do things domestically that actually the military is not allowed to do. I think that's the point that she's making.
Like what?
But if he's going to round up
illegal immigrants, that is actually not a function of the military.
The military can absolutely be used to work with local officials to provide military resources, but working with other parts of the federal government and local officials. We already send the National Guard to the border.
Not against the will of the local officials or the will of the state government. We have a federalist government here.
The military is not supposed to take up arms against American citizens.
They're not. You keep saying that. This is about illegal immigration. You all keep saying American citizens.
Well, how do we know whether the people are illegal or not?
Well, when we
know after they're shot.
We have 1.6.
We know after they die.
We have 1.6 million people in this country who've already received deportation orders from courts. They are here illegally.
No, it's always back to illegal immigration with people who support Donald Trump. It's always back to illegal immigration. But that's not the only thing that we're talking about here. We're talking about the American people. We're talking about taking up arms against them with a military that's supposed to be protecting them.
This is not right. You cannot say Donald Trump is sending the military to round up.
That's what he said. That is what he is saying, Scott. That's not what I'm saying.
Totally false.
He said that.
Totally false.
That's what he said.
Scott, Trump.
We are in the fever swamps, Andy. I'm sorry.
What is your dispute here? I'm not even really
because they're saying that he's sending the military to shoot or round up American citizens.
We did not say shoot.
I think
people,
the issue.
Scott.
The issue.
You said take. He just said take up arms.
Scott, why are you acting like
actually? Let me ask Elliot here. I mean,
look, I did say take up arms because when you send the army in,
justice is coming, friends. Justice is coming. They're terrified. They're getting these preemptive pardons ready. They know their days are numbered. So here is what we have to talk about. Remember when Democrats called Trump's discussion of pardons an admission of guilt? Now they're rushing to shield their allies before January 20th. But here's the question that exposes everything. If these officials did nothing wrong, then why do they need preemptive pardons? What crimes are they trying to escape accountability for? Share your thoughts in the comments below. The American people deserve to know what they are so desperate to hide. And speaking of making a statement, our new MAGA Avengers collection at the Next News merch shop, link below, isn't just clothing, it's armor for truth warriors. Each piece is designed to remind the establishment that we the people are watching. Get yours now before they're gone exclusively at shop.nextnewsnetwork.com.